of the day for the 2015-16 school year. This is our debate for treasurer. And via coin toss, Joseph will be going first.
Awesome. So opening statement?
Yes.
Cool. My name is Joseph Kerins. I'm a junior here at DePaul. I'm a third year in the econ program. I'm involved in a lot of different student organizations on campus. And I want to be elected for treasurer. I want to be elected to treasurer. There's a lot of initiatives I'd like to pursue as treasurer, as well as step outside the historic role of treasurer in SGA and create new ways that the treasurer can work within the university administration on behalf of students. So with that, I guess you'll learn a little bit more about me as we get into the debate, but that's all I'd like to say for now.
Thank you. Wille?
Great, thank you. So my name is Damian. I am currently a sophomore here at DePaul. I'm originally from Wisconsin. I'm double majoring in finance and economics, and I'm minoring in international business. And something I think that's pertinent that I want to touch on real quick is that I am the scholarship coordinator in the Office of Undergraduate Admission here at DePaul. And so I just want to throw some facts out there that DePaul awards $24 million in scholarships, $16 million in need-based grants every year to students here at DePaul. And that means that about 78% of students here at DePaul are relying on some sort of financial aid provided by the school to come to school here. And so with that, I think two of my main initiatives that I want to push for is the streamlining of the SAF-B process, making that more accessible to students, and also the educational accessibility of coming to school here at DePaul.
All right, great, thank you. And you just touched on some of your initiatives, but what is the most important initiative to your platform, and how will you make those initiatives happen?
Sure. Well, like you said, I touched on two of them. And it's hard to choose really between the two of them, but I think if it comes down to it, the absolute most important one would be the educational accessibility, because obviously we all are paying here, or hopefully we're paying to be here at DePaul if you're getting paid to be here. Great, but that's a huge issue for students is educational accessibility and knowing where to find scholarships, how the FAFSA process works. And that's something that I have been exposed to in my role as a scholarship coordinator. So I'm talking directly to students, helping them find scholarships, helping them navigate the scholarship tool, which is now called Scholarship Connect, and also encouraging them to file the FAFSA and the steps that are involved in filing the FAFSA, submitting that to the Office of Financial Aid, and what they consider then when they consider you for any grants or loans through that office.
All right, great. Joseph, same question.
Absolutely. I would say the most important initiative, it's kind of hard because I feel like all my initiatives sort of intersect with each other, but I think the biggest one that I've been advocating for since day one is financial feasibility of DePaul. And it's kind of broad sounding because there's a lot of different areas within that need work. So first and foremost, access to scholarships, like Damian mentioned, we need to integrate how that information is distributed to students. So that's using SGA's platform, social media, finally revamping our website to add more features like that will relay important information, scholarships just being one of them. And then also having really difficult conversations with administration, talking about resource allocation within the university, what is benefiting students most, how can we constantly be revising this process so we're always improving and not just having conversations. So that's probably financial feasibility, and all the things that fall within that would probably be my most important initiative.
Okay, great, thank you.
And next we're gonna have a question specifically for each of you. So this one's gonna be for you, Joseph.
Okay.
You resigned from SGA this April, I believe.
Correct.
Can you please explain why, and then why should students vote for you for a higher office if you cannot complete a term in the Senate?
Absolutely, yeah. So I was originally appointed to SGA on April of 2014, and I had the experience to work under two different types of student government administrations, and under both, I felt that my own personal voice was being stifled in many different ways. And when I realized in the winter that I was interested in running for a position as treasurer, I realized that I wasn't getting anything out of it. My initiatives weren't actually being able to accomplish because they weren't under the initiatives of the cabinet. So I didn't see there being a benefit in that position, and that's why I resigned. I still continued a lot of the conversations which I was working on while I was a part of SGA. So I felt like that was very important to do, but I don't think not completing a singular academic year in SGA reflects anything about how I'm determined to work on behalf of the student body. So yeah, that's what I need to say.
Thank you.
Damian, one of your initiatives is to promote collaboration among student groups and organizations on campus. Please list specific ways that can be done.
Sure. Well, one of my involvements on campus is Alpha Phi Omega, which is the service fraternity on campus. I'm the president of that organization. So I think something that sort of speaks to that initiative is the fact that you guys may or may not have heard of that organization. And so I hate to steal my running mate's term here, but we oftentimes get caught in our DePaul bubble. And so promoting that campus collaboration and across different student groups will allow you to escape that bubble and really make connections with different types of student groups and find where you agree, because I think we agree on a lot more than we think. And so specific ways of going about doing that is maybe doing some sort of forum or groups that have the similar interests. They can get together, share their ideas, and work towards a common goal. And I think that's something that we need to promote more, because we are all very separate groups here. And if we all come together with a singular goal, I think we can really make great strides to achieving that goal.
All right, great, thank you. Our next section of questions will be about position-specific issues, and you will have 1 minute to respond to each of these.
So Damian, in this question, you'll go first. So both of your positions, you'll be working with SAFB a lot. So in order to continue to work toward enhancing the process of applying for and receiving funds through SAFB, how do you specifically plan to enhance and streamline the process? Sure,
that's a great question. And I think what's a benefit to me or an advantage to me is that I have a lot of experience with SAFB personally. Again, being the president of Alpha Phi Omega, I've handled several budgets with specific events, and now the budget for the entire fraternity dealing with SAFB. And so I've got my own experience, and I've talked to other student groups specifically about what they want to change. One thing in particular that I've been hearing is the due dates for the SAFB application. So I would love to implement some sort of system that lets students know when deadlines are coming up. Maybe they started an application, but they didn't finish it. It can email them, say, hey, you started an application, there's a due date coming up. That'll make it a lot easier. Students will be more aware of the due dates. And that's one specific example. There are other examples like breaking it down for exactly what a student organization can request, because it's not the same for every student organization. So those are just a couple things, but there's a lot of work to be done to clarify that process.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah.
Joseph?
Awesome, cool. So I think the first thing that could happen is conducting a wide student organizational survey regarding SAFB, asking specific things like regarding due dates or amount of money being allocated or the process. Whatever it is, all the things that go into the SAFB should then be surveyed by not only student organizations, but also students who aren't in organizations to kind of make this as accessible as possible. So a part of what Vincentians United stands for is fighting for the non-traditional student, which is now the new traditional student. And I feel the SAFB process kind of caters to the traditional student. So, you know, even if it means rethinking how Org Connect works for student organizations to get registered to apply for SAFB funding, to tiny little details about filling out stuff on other platforms besides OrgSync, whatever it is, I think sitting down, conducting a full survey, figuring out what those specific things are, and then sitting down with SAFB, figuring out what we can do, and continue that process. I think that's the best way to really see what students want specifically, because I might not have all the answers.
Okay, thank you. Next question, we'll start with Joseph. According to some, relations between SGA and student organizations are not as good as they could be. How would you work to improve those relations?
Absolutely. So I think pursuing a number of transparency initiatives would improve those relations. So as Kara Anderson mentioned before me, doing polling with students. We can also add polling features to our SGA website. I heard in Vanessa's interview that there's features of announcements. I wasn't aware of that, so that's awesome. We should start using that. So I think creating that transparency will improve student organizations. Also, I think standing up as an organization for students for all student organizations and respecting their ideas. So even if it's not something that SGA can take on as an initiative, I think knowing that each organization and their values and their freedom of speech on campus is protected and valued is really, really important. I know from student organizations that they don't always feel that way. So I think that's the first thing that can be done, and that can be accomplished through a cabinet-wide communications policy that can really figure out what those lacking components are. But yeah.
Okay, thank you. Damian, same question.
Sure. Do you mind repeating it just so I can get
Absolutely.
answering the question accurately?
According to some, relations between SGA and student organizations are not as good as they could be. How would you work to improve those relations?
Sure. So between student organizations and SGA, I think that a lot of times the people that are running for SGA will run for SGA. They'll go out, they'll talk to student organizations, say, hey, what are your concerns? Vote for me. And then once they're elected into office, that maybe dissipates from there. And so I'd like to continue those conversations. And I know talking to Brendan in a different interview, we were talking about how we'd love to continue the relationship with the DePaulia because it hasn't been the strongest relationship, and maybe it strengthens around election time, but continuing those relationships into the school year. And that's something that we can take into all different student organizations. And in addition to that, there are the SGA hours, maybe expanding that program because like Joseph had mentioned, not all students are in student organizations. So we need another way of capturing student concerns if they're not involved in a student organization. And so being around during the day when they're taking classes and making those relationships being visible as a student government would be the ways that we could improve those relations.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Next question has to do with the budget, specifically regarding SGA budget transparency. Some have raised issues about how SGA funds are spent, such as on end-of-year banquets and gifts for administrators. How would you make the SGA budget more transparent for students, and what are some changes that you may make as treasurer or advocate for in SGA spending? And we're going to go to Damian first.
Sure, that's a great question. I think that making the budget more transparent is obviously a very important topic to most students. They want to know where their money is going. And now that's not always the easiest process. It's very easy to say, yeah, I'm going to go into office and I'm going to make this super transparent. Everyone's going to know exactly where all the money is going. But you're going to get some pushback, unfortunately. And so creating those great relationships with administration is really how I would go about doing that. Because obviously I'm going to advocate to make the budget as transparent as possible. But I think it's all about your relationship with administration. And I've had a lot of experience making great relationships with administration, specifically in enrollment management and marketing right now with my experience in undergraduate admission. But I look forward to expanding that into all the different departments, specifically student affairs, so that we can work to make the budget more transparent.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, I think I think educational institutions in general exist because of the network of students who are here. That's why we're even here, because of students and education. So I think creating transparency between student government and students is first and foremost, not administration. Administration cares about the success of the institution, which incorporates students within that. However, improving our relationship with students is something that we can do immediately. So regarding SGA budget transparency, we should have that posted on the website, our budget. It's not posted on the website. Why? We should do that immediately. I think that's a way that students can at least have a rough idea of how money is being spent. Regarding specific categories, I think those do not reflect the intention values of our institution. I don't think it's smart to spend being a former employee of the financial fitness office, I have a pretty good idea of understanding how to cut costs and look at budgets and realize what is the best way to allocate spending. And if it's not benefiting all the students and only benefiting us as an organization, I think that needs to be considered. I think that needs to take a really critical look. We need to take a really critical look at that and figure out how we can change that and how we can spend money that benefits students first and foremost. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. Our next section, which we've touched upon in many other answers, is on transparency, and you will have 30 seconds to answer each of these questions.
Right. What is your stance on secret ballots? Currently, the votes by some senator, or by all senators, are secret. Would you look to abolish those if you were elected?
You first? Great. So secret ballots, again, I'm going to echo what my running mate Patrick said, is that I'm not sure the reasons why there were secret ballots this year. My idea is that maybe the topics were sensitive for some members in the organization. So whether it's down from cabinet to senators to anyone that's listening in, that can be a sensitive topic. And so the only reason I can think to have secret ballots is maybe if the topic is too sensitive, that creating a safe space for students to express their opinions is really the #1 goal of SGA.
Absolutely, yeah. Although it wouldn't be my unilateral decision to make a decision about secret ballots, I would firmly oppose it just because of what our organization is as student representatives. There shouldn't be a reason for secret ballots, even if topics are of sensitive material, because if SGA advocated for their integrity as an organization by not pursuing secret voting, students wouldn't attack individual senators or try criticizing them for their voting, especially if that voting is reflecting what they're interested in. Any type of negative type of attacks like that towards members of SGA should be treated very seriously, and SGA should protect the voting rights of those senators. So that's how I would approach that and resolve type of any issues with that as well.
Now we'll be moving into our section on student submitted questions. We open this up for students.
Wait.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Sorry about
We're just
that.
getting so excited.
So excited.
Okay, so this question is for both of you, but Joseph, you can go first. What is your stance on publishing meeting minutes?
I am a firm believer that meeting minutes should be available. Students should know that how we're spending our time in those meetings, what we're talking about, what's on our radar. I feel like it will also relay a lot of really information to students, so they'll learn more about what SGA does. So it kind of goes back to SGA transparency, SGA integrity, SGA as your advocate, those type of things. And I also feel like minutes is a way that we can be accountable for what we say within meetings, and students can then identify their representatives and be like, hey, I disagree with why did you say this? I don't agree with you, etc.
Thank you. Damian?
Yeah, so the meeting minutes, obviously I would be very much for publishing those meeting minutes if at all possible. I would fight for publishing those minutes. So I think why that's important is because, like Joseph said, transparency and accountability. So I believe accountability comes in how student government follows through on what they're going to do. So those minutes are the place that they can show this is the steps that we've taken to towards this goal. And so publishing those minutes so that everyone knows this is how we've progressed towards these goals will make it more transparent and hold SGA accountable.
All right, now we're going to move on to student submitted questions. You will have 1 minute to answer each of these questions. Our first comes from Michael Boswell. How do you view the university administration? Would they be your partner, your superior, your adversary? What sort of relationship do you envision having with senior administrators? David?
Sure. I'm going to venture away from that because I know I've watched the previous debates and they've used that same question. And I thought about it, and I truly believe that administrators are my colleagues. And I think that stems from my experience in undergraduate admission. I have a very close relationship with my supervisor and everyone else in that department. And I think that creating those strong and respectful relationships is really how you're going to get anything across the administration. You can keep yelling at them different things that students are concerned about, but until you make that respectful relationship with them, that maybe won't land. And so I had that experience making relationships with them. And so I would definitely view them as my colleague, and I look forward to making more colleagues throughout the university.
Great. Joseph?
Absolutely. I would definitely say that the administration is our partners. If we want to see success and improvements within our university, the only way that's going to happen is with students and student representatives teaming up with administration to make that possible. However, I might define partnership a little bit differently than some people. I view partners as individuals who can criticize each other and recognize those flaws and then help each other and improve that. So I think not only working with administration in a very close, respectful way is important, but also having those really difficult conversations that you might not want to have because it might make you feel uncomfortable, but it's actually what students are thinking is probably even more important, because that's the only way we're actually going to see type changes in our institution. So yeah.
So this next question, which has also been kind of consistent through our debates, comes from Kennedy Carlson. DePaul University is named after St. Vincent de Paul and as an institution follows the Vincentian tradition. What does being Vincentian mean to you? And if elected, how will you utilize the Vincentian tradition during your presidency? And Joseph, you can begin.
Absolutely. So I think being Vincentian to me is being pragmatic about how things can be done. So that's how I approach a lot of things and initiatives I've worked on while I've been in SGA in the past. I've been very pragmatic. Let's have a meeting. Let's talk about it. What can we do next? What's the action list? I'll send you an email to follow up. I'll CC blah, blah. That I feel like is something that incorporates it. I incorporate the Vincentian mission even just a little bit. And then second, which is a little bit more broader and something that encompasses all of the Vincentian United candidates, is the sense of community, the importance of community and strengthening community and being something that comes from a grassroots type of organization. So I would like to see SGA operate more as a grassroots organization and applying those type of Vincentian approaches, I feel like will allow us to do that. Yeah.
So Damian, same question.
Sure. Now, Vincentianism to me, whenever I give presentations to students in undergraduate admission, I usually say that to me, being a Vincentian is understanding the power of education and serving your community. So with the power of education, applying that in my position, it goes along with my initiative of making educational accessible here at DePaul. So promoting those resources for scholarships. Now, I would like to point out that this new scholarship tool, it's called Scholarship Connect. There was an involvement fair or a presentation of that in the Loop on Thursday. Now, I'm pretty sure almost no one knew about that. Using SGA resources to promote any of those resources to educate students on those opportunities is really my #1 priority, and how I would integrate the Vincentian values of education, educating yourself on the different resources, and then serving your community, promoting any organization's events. So creating those strong relationships with organizations, and then promoting those events because those are oftentimes serving the community.
Great. And then our final question, how do you plan to help incorporate students living off campus into students living on campus? David.
Sure. Well, in undergraduate admission, I hate to keep going back to that, but I get a lot of great experience from there. We always talk about what % of students are actually living on campus and how many are living off campus. So the statistic is about 75 to 77% of freshmen live on campus in their first year. So that does make for a large population of off-campus students, but a lot of them do live in the surrounding area. Now, I recognize there are a lot of students that come from the suburbs, and they are great students still. They get involved. I know someone in my organization at Alpha Phi Omega, he is the co-chair for service. He commutes from the suburbs every day. So I would love to connect with him, hear his story, and then share those stories with any other commuter students so that it can inspire them to get involved on campus, because I truly believe what ties someone to the campus is getting involved. So I would love to incorporate more of those off-campus students into those on-campus activities and sharing other students' experiences about how they do that.
Absolutely. I think one way that we can create a very sustainable off-campus community, a sustainable community in general that takes into consideration that the majority of our students live off campus, is taking certain steps and precautions to make sure that expenses don't come between students and their education. So kind of something that I've touched on, and I feel like in all my little segments regarding transparency and access and financial feasibility, is if we take a hard look at the student government budget and we can allocate money separately into a category, I feel like it would be best spent towards students, towards any type of cost that might become come between them and their school. So that can be the form of venture cards or Metro cards or gift cards to the bookstore, providing for that non-traditional, new traditional student, off-campus commuting. Those type of expenses can sometimes be very burdensome. So I feel like that is a way that SGA can show that we're a leader, we fight for them while you're living on campus or you're a 45-minute train ride away, either way. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Now we'll move to our closing statements. You'll each have 30 seconds each, and we'll start with Damian.
Sure. Well, I'd like to thank you guys, first of all, for giving me the opportunity to, number one, come in, but number two, make the elections for SGA more transparent and just knowledgeable for students. This is a huge process that really doesn't get advertised much. And I want to thank you guys for that, because the work that SGA does is really only meaningful if students understand what they're doing and they can voice their concerns. So again, I'd like to echo the numbers that I said at the very beginning, that DePaul awards 78% of all students with some sort of aid. And I'd really like to focus on those issues that really matter about SAFE streamlining that process, and also the educational accessibility of students here at DePaul.
Great, thank you, Damian. Joseph.
Absolutely, yeah. So while we're here at DePaul, we often hear that the Chicago is our classroom, and that is an expensive classroom. So beyond the things that DePaul already does by awarding, having a very generous award program at DePaul that is really a leader in other private institutions with. Beyond that and expanding that role, I think SGA can step up and provide some good precedents of how the administration as a whole can incorporate these type of things. I feel like SGA is the perfect type of area where you can kind of use it as like a testing ground for things that can later be absorbed by the wider university, such as Vinivan being something. I think us stepping up and creating resources for students regarding unexpected type of financial expenses and providing for students in that way will be a really innovative step for the university to take and show that we're a leader about how we care about DePaul, or care about DePaul students. Yeah.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, guys. Yeah.
All right.